Welcome to Shooting Straight with Brad and David. I'm David Kloss, your Navajo County Sheriff, and my partner.
I'm Brad Carline, your Navajo County Attorney.
And this month we're joined with a new commander from Pinetop Lakeside, Commander Wilkie. We welcome you and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, you're new to town, you're new to the position. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience.
I was born and raised in Madison, Wisconsin, so the climate is very similar to what I was used to.
Similar? I would think it would be a lot colder back in Wisconsin.
Well, that's true.
Okay.
It is colder. Similar, not the same.
Okay.
Similar. Compared to being in the desert for 35 years, it's more similar. I joined the Marine Corps coming out of high school. Spent 12 years in the Marine Corps. Got into law enforcement right after that. I was with the city of Yuma for 20 years. Went to Peoria for 5 years. And then decided to come up here and continue my career up here.
That's a slow migration from one end of the state.
Right. I spent about all 12 years in the Marine Corps just about in Yuma. And then the 20 years, so about 35 years altogether in the desert. So it was time to move up to the mountains and enjoy the cooler and better weather.
Were you like an MP in the Marines? Or?
No, I was an aircraft mechanic, but this is something I always wanted to do.
So as a kid, you wanted to become a law enforcement officer?
I think it started more in the Marine Corps. Once I got in the Marine Corps, kind of developed that serving mentality and wanting to help other people and do this kind of work.
And what kind of duties did you have when you were in Yuma with their police department?
With them being there 20 years, I did just about everything. Traffic seemed to be kind of my forte. I always gravitated back towards traffic. So I was an officer for about 3 years and then tested and got selected for motors. I was a motor officer for 4 years.
Some people might not understand what motors is.
A motorcycle officer in the traffic unit.
Okay.
So enjoyed that a lot. And then circled back there as a traffic sergeant when I got promoted, and then a traffic lieutenant before I left Yuma. So really enjoyed that.
Why did you transfer up to the Valley, one of those agencies?
It was kind of a stepping stone to get here. We bought our house up here about 6 years ago, so we were still in Yuma at the time. So the drive was a little extensive, but it was kind of a master plan to eventually retire up here anyway. So Peoria got us closer to here and still able to work in the Valley because there wasn't much open up here at the time that I moved to Peoria. But then about 8-10 months ago, I saw this opening come up. So it was a perfect opportunity to continue working in the field that I love and live in the place that I really want to be. So.
And what kind of duties did you have with Peoria? Same emphasis on traffic?
I kind of did the same thing. I started out as a patrol watch commander.
So you moved up in rank from sergeant to commander when you transferred?
I was a lieutenant in Yuma when I left.
Okay.
So I kind of lateraled over at the same rank because they had openings at that time. And then again, I went through personnel and training for a couple of years. Did that, managing that department, and worked my way back to traffic. Got recertified as a motorcycle officer on the BMWs, which was different than the Harleys I rode in Yuma, and did that for a little while before getting this job here.
So do you plan to have motorcycles with Pinetop Lakeside now?
I had thought about it. I just got back from the conference with the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, and I had thought about asking Alberto Gutierrez for a motorcycle for up here. But
you haven't yet?
I have not yet.
Are you going to tell the chief that when you get it, you get to ride it first?
I would have to, because I'm probably the only certified one there.
You have to really check things out. I don't see your wings on your uniform.
That's something that kind of dropped off when I came here, but that's a good point.
But you have them close by if you need them.
Yes.
Well, that's neat. So, well, first, welcome. It sounds like you've had your eyes on Navajo County and the White Mountains for a long time.
Yeah.
And we always welcome new talent and especially people that want to come serve their community. You've been there for a few months now. What are some things that you see in and around the agency you'd like to work on or implement?
Well, with me being new in my position, being kind of a middle manager to help the chief out, we're looking at really trying to improve the atmosphere there. We've just gotten up to almost full staffing right now, so we're closing in on trying to do that. And with that, morale has improved a little bit because it's always nice to have enough people around and people don't get overworked. So right now we're kind of working on that, trying to settle everything back down from getting fully staffed and getting people back in a regular routine without working too much overtime and too much coverage off on their normal days off.
So what exactly is your title and your duties?
I'm technically by title Commander of Operations, but basically I'm commander of everything. When I first started training there, the guy that was training me, I would ask him, well, who does this? And he's like, you need to stop asking me that, you do it. So it's like everything that comes up, I wear many hats here, which is something very different from where I've been before. You know, everybody thinks, well, it's a small town, it's slower, and, you know, it's a retirement job or something, you won't have to do much. And it's actually quite the opposite, where I'm wearing a lot of different hats. I help the chief with all his stuff, and I've actually been shadowing him almost everywhere he goes to city or town council meetings and whatever he's doing, just to kind of learn what he's doing. But then I'm also trying to help the sergeants out and the officers out to do their jobs. And
So the sheriff and I understand what operations mean, but some of our viewers may not understand that aspect.
actually, right now, I think that's just the title. Normally, that would be over the field units, like in patrol, the officers that are actually out on the road doing the work. And if there were split responsibilities, then another commander might have like an administrative side where they're doing things with records and record requests and that type of stuff. But with me being the only commander, it's title only, so I'm pretty much covering everything.
You'd mentioned you're down a couple officers.
Yes.
What does your department look like fully staffed?
Fully staffed, it's the chief, myself, 2 patrol sergeants right now, and we should have about 12 patrol officers and 2 detectives as far as sworn personnel.
Do you have, you're just short 2 at the moment.
We're short about 2 positions, yes.
So when there's a major incident, do you take a bigger role, or is that still those below you?
It doesn't even have to be a major incident. The chief and I actually sometimes end up covering shifts or helping out on the road when we have to, because sometimes if somebody's off or sick, then we just need the extra support. So not uncommon for us to be out on the road.
I think that's probably, like you mentioned earlier, a lot of people think you're moving to a retirement community, a retirement job, but
Right.
You've quickly learned our summer population.
Yes.
You're not quite as busy as Peoria, but due to the ratio of officers, you probably feel just as busy, don't you?
Yes. Probably busier, yes.
Yeah, busier.
Wearing the different hats and working during the week and working the events on the weekend. But it's still good. It's different, but it's good.
I think that's what a lot of people learn from the larger agencies that come up here. They see how well-rounded not only our commanders and our chiefs of police are, but our patrol officers as well.
Right.
They're the traffic unit, they're the detective unit, and they're also your patrol and sometimes your first on scene entry or
Absolutely.
SWAT team too.
Yeah, so it's not just me that wears several hats. Like you're saying, everybody does, from patrol officers on up.
So you have a couple new officers that you sent to the academy, and
Actually, the last few we've had have been laterals. The ones that we've gotten from the academy are about to be off probation, so they're doing fine and doing well.
So you've been here about 5 months now, I believe
Yes.
it is. So you should have a pretty good feel of how things have historically worked with the Pinetop Lakeside Police Department, areas of strength and weakness. Now taking your 25 plus years experience with larger agencies, what do you see that you can help do to help elevate your officers that you're supervising?
Right now, we're trying to provide opportunities. So we're trying to balance out the leadership structure by adding another patrol sergeant and possibly an administrative sergeant in the future, which will help give our officers a little more prospects for advancement and to do something different. Plus, it'll share the responsibilities for the officers. Because right now, with the 2 sergeants, we don't have enough people for 24/7 coverage to have somebody on, a supervisor on shift, every hour of every day of the week. So that's kind of a big thing where we're moving right now. We just started a sergeant process for an internal position. And of course, I always circle back to traffic. So especially these last couple weekends, which seem to start on Thursday, I'm pushing everybody out on the road more and, be out there, be visible on, White Mountain Boulevard and 260 to be a little more visible and a little more present so people know that they need to slow down and be careful.
It seems on the weekends people take those speed limit signs as just suggestions and
very much so.
Kind of blow through them.
Yeah. So as a traffic commander before, what are some things you do see with our traffic patterns and our holiday, or not even holiday, weekend that we could do better, or that where we're kind of lacking?
I don't know that the personnel is, again, the main thing. I mean, with the limited amount of people we have on shift at any given time, sometimes it's hard to dedicate people to be out there, like I was saying earlier, to be visible and be present. So I think sometimes the impression is that we don't do traffic enforcement or we don't care about traffic enforcement, and that's not true. We get to it when we can, and we try to do that. So if we're lacking in everything, it's just having the resources to be out there and be more visible and educate drivers on their responsibilities and remind them that, you know, there are speed limit signs that are not just a suggestion, that they need to abide by that. But otherwise, I think we actually do a pretty good job, and I was impressed when I first moved up here that it's relatively good. I mean, it's not totally out of control, but it's just, I think, a little adjustment to remind people the right things to do.
Sometimes that weekend rush just people get a little anxious or in a hurry.
It's a mentality that comes from different areas, that if you're not going 15 over, you're slowing down traffic. So sometimes it's almost more dangerous in some other parts of the state to slow down too much. But
is there much community outreach that you and the chief and the officers are doing to help, I'm going to use the term, improve relationships with the public, but to make sure that they know who you are and they feel comfortable reaching out to Pinetop Lakeside PD?
The biggest thing we've been working on lately is our social media. We've been kind of absent in that area and not had a presence there because there wasn't a person dedicated to that. So recently we've had a person dedicated to that that's posting a lot more positive stuff about the police department and showing what we're actually doing. And we've got a really good reception from that people like to see what we're doing and see officers in other light than just maybe what they're seeing on the national news or something.
Yeah, which is distorting what we all know that really happens on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
Are there other things you're doing besides social media, like when there's the Balloon Festival that was just last month? Does that give you guys opportunities to interact better with the public, you think?
It does. And the chief and I, again, for lack of personnel, we're out pretty much the whole weekend of the Balloon Festival. We have our volunteers in policing, which are volunteers that come in to help us out. And they did it. They had a big part in the parking and the traffic control in the area. And the chief and I were actually out amongst the crowds and stuff, talking to people and answering questions. So any event like that, we like to get involved in and be out there.
And I know at one time that PLPD had a Youth Explorers program. Do you still have that?
We do not at this point, but I think that's something we need to start looking at again.
So we just have a couple more minutes here, but Pinetop Lakeside is our busiest area, and you guys have a very busy community, and we work closely together, and
Yes.
You'll find that out, and I'm sure you've already found that out.
I have seen that.
Because the county lines and town limits are so chopped up in Pinetop Lakeside. So one side of the street could be county, the other side could be city.
Right.
Did you have these type of, and so we have what I feel, and I know the chief and I work closely together, and our officers and deputies work. Did you see these type of collaboration between county and city where you came from before, or is this probably something new that?
This is, I think, better. I've had good relationships before with other agencies, and sometimes there's a little tension between different agencies. I think in the Valley, it seemed like that was a little more present, where we work well together, but there's still some tension as far as individual goals or whatever for different departments. But up here, it's been a very good experience. I mean, with the recent events and the things that have happened here, the tragedies that have happened here, I've definitely seen everybody come together, and we've worked together, and that's a really good feeling to have that. Being a smaller department, especially, that, you know, our officers may not be right there, but we have somebody else that can help us if needed.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate what you bring here, Chief Barnes, and your town manager and your town council and your mayor have always worked really close with the county because, like I said, it's our busiest area. All the communities in and around Pinetop Lakeside. We know you're a busy police department, and so oftentimes you'll be assisting county, and county will be assisting you, and we look forward to that continued relationship, and we look forward to continually providing the public safety for all our residents in and around Pinetop Lakeside. As we know, those boundaries don't mean nothing when it comes to serving the public. So
right. I agree.
Well, thank you and welcome, and
thank you. Glad to be here.
Glad you moved up here and come to give us bring your talents to Navajo County.
Thank you for having me.
So that's all the time we have this month, and stay tuned for this month's Most Wanted.
Nathan Franklin Bradford has a valid and confirmed felony warrant for failure to appear on the original charge of burglary in the 3rd degree. Nathan's last known address was Show Low, Arizona, but is known to frequent the Pinetop Lakeside area. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Nathan, please call Navajo County Communications Center at 928-524-4050, or to remain anonymous, please call WeTip at 1-800-78-CRIME.